Hey, thanks for watching my prior video, How to Stop Bad Thoughts. I'm so glad to see that it resonated with so many people. Today I want to provide some additional tips and information on how to more effectively get rid of negative thinking, and you can do this more easily than you would imagine. To start off, let me quickly review the main lesson from my previous video. Your body's going to do whatever you tell it to. I wanted to share with you the way I learned this because for me it became an aha moment that really solidified that this practice has become the most amazing self-help tool that I use besides hypnosis. So let's go ahead and get into it. The reason I'm so passionate as a hypnotist is because of how amazed that I was when hypnosis helped me to change my eating habits really rapidly and without a care, which kind of blew my mind. That's another story for another time. I used hypnotism frequently to help myself feel better about a multitude of different challenges and different transitions. There was a day when I noticed I had been feeling really anxious. And if you're familiar with the feeling, you essentially just keep thinking the most awful thoughts around and around in your head, and your stomach might feel like it's in knots, and you start feeling worse and worse, and that's how it progresses if enough attention is paid to the problem. So I'm feeling anxious. And then I remembered an important tip. When you're feeling overwhelmed or upset, pay attention to what it is that you're thinking about. Notice what phrases and comments that are going around and around in your head, because most likely these are the thoughts that are causing you to feel like something's not quite right. I currently live on Kauai, but to set up my scenario for that time in my life, I was finally able to live and work in Florida 6 months a year and Pennsylvania 6 months a year. I had 3 offices between the 2 states, and I'd go back and forth to my offices monthly. So I'd keep my car in one location for the 6 months, and then I'd rent a car when I would fly to the other office for work for a week or so. And I did this every month. Then when it was time to move back down to Florida for the next 6 months, I would always drive the car down with help. Have somebody to help me on the drive, because one of the issues that I've had in my life is that I really used to have difficulty driving long distances. It sounds so stupid, but that was my issue. And the problem was that basically after about an hour of driving, maybe an hour and a half, I would just feel so tired that I literally could not drive anymore. I would pull over and take a quick nap, or the majority of the time when there were long distances involved, I would catch a ride with somebody or ask someone to drive with me. What I didn't know then is that I had narcolepsy. And narcolepsy is a sleep disorder where you fall asleep very easily and sometimes unexpectedly. When I caught myself feeling anxious and then I paid attention to my thoughts, I noticed that I was worrying about that upcoming drive from Pennsylvania to Florida that I had coming. I didn't know I had narcolepsy, but what I did know is that in a month I had to do a 17-hour drive alone. When I paid attention to my thoughts that were just going round and round in my head, almost without really even noticing them until I paid attention, I realized that I was terrified that I wasn't going to be able to make it on a drive alone. The thoughts ranged from, I'm never going to be able to make it to Florida by myself. This is going to take forever if I'm napping every hour. This is going to be so boring. I'm never going to get there. Up into the kind of thoughts like, oh my God, I'm going to fall asleep at the wheel. I'm going to crash my car. I'm going to have a head-on collision. That's where my thoughts went. Do you remember the big lesson here? That your body's going to do whatever you tell it to? I learned this lesson a long time ago, but for some reason I think I looked at it as maybe keeping positive, which I've always been a very positive person. But on this particular day, when I thought back, what am I thinking right now? And I heard myself thinking, I'm going to crash my car. I'm going to have a head-on collision. I suddenly heard the words in my mind, your body's going to do whatever you tell it to. And I realized that the reason that I was feeling so anxious about the trip was essentially because I was telling myself to have a head-on collision due to falling asleep, which is something I felt like I had no control over. I instantly sucked back the words, no, forget that. Back then, I was saying, cancel that, cancel. For this scenario of me falling asleep at the wheel and crashing, once I actually paid attention to what it was I was saying to myself in my head, and also knowing as a hypnotist how damaging that particular thought is, I suddenly realized that I had to stop thinking those thoughts. I had to stop thinking thoughts that were directing me in such a negative way, or my body might actually do what I was telling it to, which of course I did not want. I immediately told myself to stop that thought. Cancel that. No, I don't want it to happen. Cancel it. You learned in the last video that it's as simple as basically telling yourself to stop it. And today I want to teach you another key part of doing this even more effectively, which will not only stop those thoughts, but doing this next part will begin to turn your thought processes in the other direction, which will help that worry from coming back over and over again. You've really got to change that thought and send it into another direction. This is also very, very easy to do. You simply replace the bad thoughts that you stopped with an opposite and much better thought. After I canceled my worries about crashing my car on the long drive, I replaced each part of that thought with the exact opposite thought. And then I said this or something like it to myself out loud instead. I'm amazed at how easily I'm able to make it to Florida. I'm a great driver. I've been driving forever. I know how to drive. I'm alert and full of energy. I feel great. I'm amazed at how quick and easy this drive is. Time just flies by in such an enjoyable way, and before I know it, I'm home. I tell you what, I did not believe a word of any of that when I said it. But I felt I had to reverse those horrible crash your car type of thoughts that I was having. A month before that trip, anytime that I caught myself starting to worry about it, I'd instantly cancel the thought and replace it with something like what I just said, and I would literally stop worrying and feel okay within moments. Okay, so now we get to the night before the trip. I'm getting ready to drive down to Florida by myself. I am freaking out. I'm trying not to think, oh my God, I'm never gonna be able to do this. So I start thinking it, I cut myself off, cancel, and replace it with what I was telling you. I'm amazed at how easy it is to enjoy the ride. I'm alert and full of energy. And I say the whole paragraph that I basically mentioned to you because I want to make sure I cover each of those worries that I have. And you know what? Then you feel fine. Now, the next morning, I get in the car to start the ride and I'm instantly thinking, oh my God, I might die. Cancel! I had to tell myself to cancel it before I even got the thought out. I started out my drive. I reminded myself of all of that good stuff. I started out my drive and it went fine. In fact, I was actually really enjoying myself. And I remember when I had gotten from Pennsylvania all the way down to Daytona Beach, I had a huge smile on my face because I really wasn't far from home at that point. And that's when I really realized that everything that I had said about the trip had come true. And my smile got even bigger because now I was like, wow, I couldn't believe how easy the trip was. It was just like I said, I had energy. I got a lot of ideas while I was driving. The time flew by. Like, how does a 17-hour trip fly by? I will never know, but it got faster every time I did that trip because I always included that the time is going to fly by when I was telling myself what to expect. And I enjoyed the ride just like I told myself to. And the biggest change of all is that I have never needed another nap in the car since I did this over 15 years ago. Literally everything I said to myself on that ride came true. I stayed alert and full of energy on the drive. I actually do enjoy long drives now. It got to the point where I preferred to do this back and forth from Pennsylvania to Florida by myself. After this trip, I just started doing it by myself. It was easier. It was easier overall. And that made me really happy. And I remember I was smiling, like I said, so big, ear to ear as I passed Daytona. But then as soon as I realized I was only 90 minutes away from home, I also realized that I had a really busy week ahead of me. And my smile kind of turned into a frown, I guess, because I remembered that I had a couple of weeks of really long 15-hour days starting right away after I got home, starting the next day. But then I remembered this new trick and I said to myself, cancel that thought, because I do not want to have a miserable 2 weeks working hard. Instead, I said, I am amazed at how much fun I have at work. I enjoy what I do. It's true. I love to talk to people and help them. It's true. And I reminded myself, the time always goes by so fast and it's great to be in such demand. I love what I do and I'm thankful. Boom. Add in a few little facts. Boom. My smile returned. Because although I said all of these things about the drive without any guarantee that it would work out, at this point I felt like I had proof. And once again, actually, it worked really great. I enjoyed being busy. Before I knew it, that busy time was done. When you switch your perception, you can enjoy things so much better. The ups and downs of life can really be improved by adjusting your perception. This is the best lesson I've learned in my adulthood. It helped me to deal with life's worst moments better than I ever could expect. Using my driving situation as an example, I want to show you how I changed each of those bad thoughts that I mentioned earlier to better ones, as well as explaining a few other important tips that go along with this lesson as we begin to wrap it up. Worry 1 about the drive was never going to be able to make it to Florida by myself. Wait, I don't want that to happen, so I need to change this thought to the opposite thought. So instead of I'm never going to be able to make it to Florida, I changed it to I'm amazed at how easily I'm able to make it to Florida. Doesn't that feel better? I mean, I am a great driver, other than falling asleep part. So then you could also add in a couple things that make sense to you. So for me, that was a good time to remind myself that I've been driving forever. I am a great driver. I know how to drive. I've never had an accident. Okay, now I'm really starting to feel better about this. This drive's going to take forever if I'm napping every hour. Now for me, I think this was the most important sentence that I needed to change. So I changed this sentence to, I am alert and full of energy. I feel great. I couldn't be falling asleep on the drive. So remember this also, it's very important for you to focus on what you want instead of what you don't want. I don't want to have a head-on collision. I didn't want to have a miserable few weeks getting caught up with a lot of extra work. Instead of focusing on the worst case scenario that you don't want, focus on telling yourself what you do want to happen instead. Now, sentence 3. It's going to be such a long, boring drive. I'm never going to get there with all of those naps. I changed this negative Nelly thought of a long, boring drive to I'm amazed at how quick and easy this drive is. Now for me, I was never a fan of a long drive, so I had to grasp at straws for this one. I had to find a few things that I might enjoy about a 2-day drive. So I added in, it's nice to enjoy the ride, because it was important for me to enjoy the ride. I reminded myself that I didn't have to work, that I was off for the next couple of days. What else do I do in the car? I talk on the phone, I listen to favorite CDs and audiobooks, so I reminded myself of that. I love just thinking and brainstorming when I'm driving, so I reminded myself I'd get some thinking done. And then always add in that time goes by and before I know it, I'm home. That's a great thought to add in there. Speaking out this little paragraph reinforces that it will not be a miserable 2-day drive, because that's the last thing that I want to do is be miserable during a 2-day drive. I've driven across country from Florida to California and back 7 times. Believe me, I did not have any interest in doing this drive at all. Zero fun in my book, but it had to happen one way or the other. I needed to make the best of it because that's what I do. This type of positive self-talk, flipping it around, really helps prepare yourself for the great day that you want to have. So even during these certain things that we have to do that we are not looking forward to doing, or even worse, when we're dealing with things that we are dreading, that driving thing was a dreading situation. But those awful times that we're dreading the most are the most important times to adjust your perception. You can help things to feel better or easier or whatever it is that you need. Now, that being said, we cannot change things that are out of our control. So, for example, we can't add in there, I'm amazed at how easy it is to win the lottery. We do not have control over that. You absolutely can control your thoughts, and your thoughts are going to be controlling how you're feeling. Make sure you're focusing on the things that you can do instead of what you're worrying that you can't do. Okay, the next 3 sentences. Oh my God, I'm going to fall asleep at the wheel. I'm going to crash my car. I'm going to have a head-on collision. Those are absolute. Cancel that. Forget that. Stop that. Once you recognize these horrible thoughts like that, you don't even want to let yourself get those kind of thoughts out anymore. So if you catch yourself saying it again, stop it in its tracks. I then replaced this huge worry of a head-on collision with, I'm amazed at how alert and full of energy I am. So instead of the, oh my God, I'm going to crash scenario, I canceled it out and replaced it with this. I'm amazed at how easily I'm able to drive to Florida. I've been driving forever. I'm a great driver. I know how to drive, never had an accident. I'm amazed at how quick and easy this drive is. It's so nice to sit back and enjoy the ride. I don't have to do anything for the next 2 days. Just drive. I can talk on the phone, listen to my favorite CDs and audiobooks. This is me time. And the time just flies by, and before I know it, I'm home. What a great trip. I'm alert and full of energy. I'm a great driver. I love long distance driving, which was actually what I wanted to happen instead. And you'll see that talking to yourself about what you want to happen feels so much better than those worst case scenarios. because now I'm not worrying about that head-on collision. I'm remembering that I don't have to do anything but drive for a couple days, and then I've been driving for a really long time without any accidents, which was actually what I wanted to happen instead. But the coolest thing is that once you tell yourself to stop it, you will notice that you have in fact stopped it. Now, something might trigger you to start thinking about all this stuff again. You know what? Say it again. Stop it. Replace that worry with what you're hoping is going to happen instead. And as long as it's something that's in your control, your body will begin to move in the direction that you suggested. Now, I want to leave you with a couple more important tips. Number one, when it comes to changing negative thoughts, remember to focus on what you want instead of what you don't want. I don't want to stress out over an impending car accident. I do want to enjoy the ride. Number two, it's not an instant thing. For example, if I'm feeling drowsy when I'm driving and I throw in an "I'm alert and full of energy" paragraph, I just want you to know it's not like bing, suddenly I'm alert and full of energy. What happens is it's not an instant change right that second. I noticed I didn't get any more feelings of tiredness when I was driving. So it's not an instant process like your eyes are going to pop open wider, but it is surprisingly quick. It's just a little bit more subtle, and you'll just kind of notice that you've stopped thinking about it. And that makes you feel really great. Test yourself with this right now. I'm a big proponent of testing this out. What's the problem or the worry that you've been thinking about? Write down the paragraph of reasons that you have in your head to worry about. Write them all down and we'll tackle it right now. Quick recap. When you're not feeling your best, step one is to stop and pay attention to what the heck you're thinking about. Write down all of the little worries that you've got going on. Write them all down. Step two is then to tell yourself to cancel it out, stop it, or if it's really horrendous, awful thoughts, tell yourself to forget those bad thoughts. So write down a better statement for each of the worries that you had. Say the new statement out loud. Replace all the bad, say it out loud, test it. Tell your body to feel the way you want to feel. If the worry pops up again, do it again. You can repeat the better paragraph in less than a minute. And the best part about it is that you're going to see pretty quickly that your body does in fact listen to you. I'd love to hear what you think. Try it in the morning and notice how you feel before lunch. This will help you feel better pretty quickly, but not only that, this is going to actually help you to manage that stressful situation with the feelings that you would prefer to experience. If you aren't sure exactly what to say, ask me. I'm happy to help you find the right way to talk to yourself. I'm curious how many of you here with me listen to Esther Hicks and Abraham. If you do, there's a phrase that I'm sure you've heard. Abraham often suggests getting out ahead of it to help keep you aligned with feeling good. I wondered what she meant by this exactly, but as I listened more, I realized it's what I've been teaching my clients to do very successfully for over 30 years. So in my next episode next Wednesday, I'm going to teach you precisely how to get out ahead of a few different scenarios, being cheated on, cancer, and more. I've got more super easy hypnotist hacks to a happy life to share. Subscribe now so you don't miss anything. Using this technique is so simple to do. It really makes a big difference in how you'll be able to handle even the most difficult moments in your life. If you missed last week's episode on how to stop bad thoughts, you'll find it here. I'd love to hear what you think. Please say hello, and I'd be happy to answer any questions anybody has. Ask the hypnotist. I'll tell you how to change your perception. Hey, you guys have a fantastic day, and I'll talk to you later.